Awase sat in front of her parents' house, clutching her big belly, tears rolling down her cheeks. The sharp words of her cousin, Usha, echoed in her mind. "You will never give birth to this child. Mark my words, Awase. You will never." Usha had always wanted a baby. She had been married to Doshima for 8 years without a child. People whispered behind her back, and her husband's family began to call her names. One night, her auntie, Mama Awase, said to Awase, "Go and stay with your cousin Usha for a while. Her husband, Doshima, is kind. Maybe he can help you somehow." Awase trusted her mother, so she packed her things and moved to Usha's house in the neighboring village. Usha and her husband welcomed her warmly, but Awase soon noticed something strange. Doshima was too kind, always bringing her gifts, checking on her, and even calling her beautiful. At first, she ignored it, but when she told her mother advised her to agree to whatever Doshima wanted. One evening, while Usha was away, Doshima came into her room. That night, something happened that changed everything. Months later, Awase discovered she was pregnant. When she told her mother's joy knew no bounds, and she advised her to share the news with Usha and Doshima. But instead of celebrating, Usha's face darkened with shock and betrayal. It didn't take long for her to realize the truth. Doshima confessed everything, saying, "Awase is carrying my child, and she is more of a wife to me than you are. I will soon make her my wife." Usha was heartbroken. She begged Doshima to think about all they had been through together, but his heart turned cold. "Leave my house. You have proven to be a man," he told her, as Awase watched silently. The day Usha left, she stood at the doorstep, her eyes full of anger and tears. She raised her hands and swore, "Awase, this child will bring you nothing but pain. You will never give birth to it. I curse you." Awase shivered at those words, but she told herself not to worry. Doshima and Awase's wedding was the talk of the village. People gathered to eat, drink, and gossip about the strange way their relationship began. Doshima didn't care what anyone thought. He was proud to finally have a wife who could give him a child. He treated Awase like a queen, showering her with love and gifts. As months passed, Doshima grew more excited. He would talk to Awase's belly every night, saying, "My child, I can't wait to hold you. You will be strong like your father." Awase smiled and tried to stay hopeful, even though Usha's curse still haunted her thoughts. When the ninth month came, everyone in the family prepared for the baby. Toshima bought new clothes, a cradle, and even a small drum for the child. But as the days passed, no labor pains came. Awase remained swollen and heavy, her belly larger than anyone had ever seen. At first, Doshima was patient. They went to the hospital in the nearby town, where the doctor examined her. "The baby is fine," the doctor said. "It's still developing." This confused everyone. How could a baby still be developing after 9 months? 1 year passed, and still no baby. Awase could barely walk by this time. Her back hurt constantly and her legs were swollen. Doshima began to lose his patience. Why is this taking so long? He would snap. Awase had no answers. By the second year, the villagers began to whisper again. This is not normal, they said. Some blamed Awase, others said it was Usha's cause. The doctor could offer no help, as every checkup showed the same thing. The baby was still growing. By the third year, Awase's life was unbearable. She couldn't leave the house anymore. She was in constant pain, lying on the mat all day, crying silently. Doshima's frustration turned into anger. What kind of child grows for 3 years? He shouted one night. I can't do this anymore. If you don't give birth soon, I will leave. Awase's heart broke at his words. She begged him, please, don't leave me. I don't know what is happening, but this baby will come. It has to come. But deep down, fear gripped her. What if Usha's cause was real? What if this child was never meant to be born? Awase's desperation grew with each passing day. The pain in her body was unbearable, but the fear in her heart was worse. She knew Usha held the key to her freedom, to the life of her baby. She begged Doshima to help her find Usha, but nobody seemed to know where she was. One day, Awase's mother suggested they try the hospital again. Let them perform surgery and bring this baby out, she said firmly. Awase hesitated, but Doshima agreed. They made the trip to the hospital, clinging to hope. After a series of tests, the doctor shook his head. I'm sorry, he said. Her blood pressure is dangerously high, and her blood count is too low. If we attempt surgery, she might not survive. Doshima slammed his fist on the table in frustration. So what are we supposed to do? Watch her suffer forever? The doctor sighed. Find a way to stabilize her health first. Until then, there is nothing we can do. Defeated, they returned home. Awate's condition worsened. She could no longer stand or even sit up for long. Doshima, exhausted and angry, began to distance himself. He stayed out late, drinking with friends and avoiding his responsibilities at home. One night, after another argument, Doshima snapped, I'm done. Take your things and go back to your parents' house. He yelled at Awase, I can't carry this burden anymore. Awase stared at him in shock, her heart breaking into pieces. Despite her pain, she managed to pack her belongings and leave. Her parents welcomed her back, but her mother, Mama, wasn't kind. This is all your fault, her mother scolded her. I told you to be smart, but you didn't know how to play the game. Look at you now. Awase felt completely alone. She tried reaching out to Usha's family, but they had no idea where she was. Her uncle said, Usha left this village long ago. Nobody has heard from her since. Days turned into weeks, and Awase's health continued to decline. She knew that if she didn't find Usha soon, she might not survive. Later on, Doshima began to regret his actions. He visited Awase's parents one day, only to find her lying weak on a mat, barely able to speak. Awase, he said softly, kneeling beside her. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to send you away. Please come back home. Awase shook her head weakly. Not until I find Usha, she whispered. She is the only one who can end this. One day, Toshima met an old friend who invited him for a baby shower. Toshima felt a strange mix of emotions as he entered the hall for his friend Pasem's baby shower. The music was loud, the decorations colorful, and everyone seemed happy. But Doshima's heart was heavy. He thought of Abase lying weak at home, and their unborn child, who seemed like a distant dream. As he greeted Pasem and mingled with the guests, his eyes suddenly landed on a familiar face, Usha. She was there, seated at the far end of the hall, her belly round and unmistakably pregnant. She laughed and chatted with other women, her face glowing with happiness. Doshima froze, his mind racing. Usha, here, pregnant. He couldn't believe it. He quickly returned to Pasem, who was walking toward him. Pasem, who is that woman over there? Doshima asked, trying to sound casual. Pasem smiled. Oh, that's my wife, Usha. Isn't she beautiful? We're expecting our first child in a few months. Doshima's heart skipped a beat. Usha was Pasem's wife. For a moment, he didn't know whether to feel angry, surprised, or relieved. But then it hit him. This was his chance. If Usha was back, he could finally ask her to leave the course. Without saying another word, Doshima left the party. He rushed back to the village, his mind racing with plans. When he got home, he found Awase lying on the mat, barely awake. Awase, I saw her. I saw Usha, he blurted out. Awase's eyes fluttered open. You saw her? Where? She whispered. She's married to my friend, Pasem. She's pregnant and living in the city. We'll go to her tomorrow and beg her to forgive us. She has to leave this course. For the first time in months, Awase's face lit up with a flicker of hope. Doshima spent the night preparing for the journey, determined to fix everything. The next morning, they left for the city. The journey was long, and Awase struggled to endure the pain. But she kept telling herself it would be worth it. When they arrived at Pasem's house, Doshima knocked on the door, his heart pounding. Pasem opened the door, surprised to see them. Doshima, what are you doing here? And who is this lady? We need to see Usha, Doshima said urgently. Pasem's smile faded. Oh, you just miss her. She left early this morning for the airport. She's traveling abroad to have the baby. Doshima felt the weight of disappointment crush him. She's gone? He asked, his voice trembling. Pasem nodded. Yes, she won't be back for a while. Awase's leg gave way and she sank to the ground, tears streaming down her face. No, no, this can't be happening, she sobbed. Doshima helped her up, his own frustration boiling inside. As they sat in silence, Pasem noticed their distress. What's going on? Doshima, why are you looking for Usha? Doshima hesitated, but decided to explain everything. He told Pasem about the cause, Awase's suffering, and the 3-year pregnancy that refused to end. Pasem listened carefully, his face growing more serious with each word. This is bad, he said finally, but don't lose hope. I will try to help. Doshima grabbed his friend's hand. Thank you, Pasem. Please, we need her forgiveness. My wife's life depends on it. Pasem promised to do his best, but deep down, Doshima knew time was running out. Later that evening, Pasem's phone rang, and it was Usha calling to inform him she had arrived safely abroad. Pasem, knowing the gravity of the situation, decided to speak to her immediately. Usha, I'm glad you're safe, but something important happened today, he began. Doshima and Awase came to the house looking for you. They told me everything, and honestly, it's heartbreaking. Awase is suffering, Usha. She's been pregnant for 3 years, and they believe it's because of the curse you placed on her. Please, as a mother to be yourself, consider forgiving them. At first, Usha was silent. The memories of betrayal still stung deeply. Past them, do you know what they did to me? They ruined my home, and now they want my forgiveness, she said, her voice trembling. I know, Usha, Pasem replied gently. But you moved on now. You are happy. You're expecting your own child. Don't let their pain drag you back into the past. Forgive them, not just for them, but for yourself and your child. You want your own delivery to be smooth, won't you? Usha sighed heavily. It wasn't easy to let go, but after a long silence, she finally said, Alright, Pasem, I'll forgive them. Set up a video call and I'll talk to them. The next day, Pasem gathered Doshima and Awase at his home for the call. When Usha appeared on the screen, Awase immediately broke into tears. Usha, my sister, I'm so sorry. I betrayed you and destroyed your home. I let greed and desperation take over my heart. Please, please forgive me. Doshima also knelt before the screen, his voice filled with regret. Usha, I wronged you. I should have been a better husband, but I failed you. Please forgive me for everything I did. Usha's eyes filled with tears as she watched them plead. Awase, Doshima, I forgive you, she said sincerely. I release you from the curse. I pray you find peace and happiness moving forward. As soon as Usha spoke those words, Awase suddenly clutched her belly and let out a loud cry. The baby is coming, she screamed. They rushed her to the local clinic, and after hours of labor, she gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Meanwhile, thousands of miles away, Usha felt a strange heaviness leave her body. Moments later, she too went into labor and delivered a beautiful baby boy in the hospital abroad. Both women felt a deep sense of peace, as if the weight of their past had finally been lifted. A year later, Usha returned to the village with her son. At her family home, Doshima, Awase, and Awase's mother were waiting for her. They welcomed her warmly, and the atmosphere was filled with a mix of joy and humility. Doshima and Awase knelt before Usha, this time in person. Usha, we're grateful for your forgiveness, Awase said. We hope one day we can be sisters again, like we used to be. Usha hugged her tightly. We already are, she said. The past is gone. Let's move forward as family. Awase's mother also stepped forward, tears in her eyes. Usha, I wronged you too. I pushed Awase into your home and caused all this pain. Please forgive me. Usha nodded. Mama, it's all in the past now. Let's heal together. The family celebrated their reconciliation with a feast. For the first time in years, there was laughter, love, and peace in their home. In this story, we learned that greed and betrayal can destroy relationships, but forgiveness has the power to heal even the deepest wounds. It is never too late to seek or give forgiveness, for it brings peace to both the heart of the offended and the offender. Always choose kindness and honesty over selfishness, as actions driven by desperation often lead to regret.
This is Umma's story time. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe. I am Amarachi Ihoma, the young storyteller.